consensus network.
Bitcoin is the only thing that you really own because it's in your head. But this whole paradigm, it's a seismic shift in how the world works. And I don't think we've yet realized how to fully adapt to it, especially governments, right? If you think about it, Bitcoin needs to trigger a huge waterfall of changes. The best protection that I think is we get the governments to have Bitcoin because then they're orange pilled. And then you align their thinking with the Bitcoin ethos, right? It's like the Trojan horse. I think the eventual evolution of governance has to be actually similar to Bitcoin. It's a consensus model where you need a super majority to change any rule set. And I think the rule set has to be minimized massively. Mm-hmm. So there's a company in Mexico that's tokenizing promissory notes. They're called Milfiel. And they've done like Milfiel, not MILF.
That has nothing to do with MILFs.
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Just checking.
Welcome back to the Freedom Footprint Show, a Bitcoin philosophy show with Knut Svanholm and me, Luke the Pseudofin. Today's episode comes to you from Prague, where we had the chance to sit down with Samson Mow, formerly of Blockstream, CEO of Jan3, and one of the most important figures in the blocksize wars. In this episode, we'll learn all about Jan3, we'll discuss the relationship between nation states and Bitcoin, and we'll explore what governance might look like in the future. Ownership versus possession, borders, the difference between HODLing and saving, a healthy dose of gaming talk, and more. Before we dive in, we'd like to quickly remind you that the best way to support the show is to stream us some sats or send us a boost on a value for value podcasting app such as Fountain. If you're listening to this show as a podcast, check out Fountain if you haven't already. You can earn sats from listening to podcasts, and you can support your favorite shows through value for value. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a weekly episode. And finally, we want to thank today's sponsors, Wasabi Wallet, Orange Pill app, and BitcoinBook.shop. All their information is in the description, and we'll be talking a little more about them later. And now, without further ado, Samson Mow on the Freedom Footprint Show.
Welcome to the Freedom Footprint Show, Samson. We're in Prague. We've just been to a conference. How was your conference?
I think it was good. I'm still jet lagged, so I'm not sure what day it is or where I am, but I think it was good.
Is that a feature or a bug? Like
both.
All right. And we did a concert together like a couple of days back.
We did.
With Nevermind, who has never rehearsed. Like the...
never practiced.
Never practiced, yeah. The Nirvana cover band with us two and Michael Anton Fisher and... Mark, whatever his name is,
Princess Plo
from
on Twitter.
From the Princess Hotel in Stuttgart. Yeah,
Bitcoin Hotel, but their Twitter handle is still Princess Plo.
Yeah. So it's the world's first 21-star hotel.
Yeah. The reception was great. Everyone loved your singing and screaming.
Except me, maybe.
I liked it. It was good. We're joking afterwards that you're the professional rock star and we're like the high school band supporting you.
If that's the case, that's we should keep it up. So never mind, Unplugged never happened. Could have happened yesterday, but unfortunately I couldn't make it.
Next time.
Next time.
But do we change the name? Like if we do Green Day next time?
Yeah, it will be Orange Day. Yeah, of course.
Okay. We just change it every time.
Yeah. So you're the CEO of Jan3. Can you give us the TLDR of what Jan3 does?
Yeah, so Jan3 is a Bitcoin tech company. We're known for nation-state Bitcoin adoption, but we also are building a wallet, a Bitcoin and Liquid wallet. So it's the Aqua wallet that was started at Blockstream. So I kind of took that over with Jan3, and we've been working on it. We paused development for a few months. Now we're restarting it. Hopefully we'll launch it before end of the year.
Oh, nice.
It's meant to support our grassroots initiative. So we want to get top-down adoption from countries, governments, politicians, but we also want to support the grassroots initiatives too and get more people into Bitcoin. And I think Aqua is that channel because it'll support liquid assets. And in liquid, you also have USDT. So the plan is that we'll launch in these large remittance corridors or places where they're seeing a lot of devaluation of their currency, but they're also using Tether. And we hope to siphon off some of the Tether from the altcoin blockchains into liquid.
So that your background is you used to be the CEO of Blockstream, right? CSO, yeah. So and then you moved to and then you started Jan3 and now you're doing this thing.
Yeah. We're still very close with Blockstream.
All right.
They still invited me to their dinner. And
that's very nice of them.
We're still building on Blockstream tech. We're using GDK and we're building on liquid.
Nice. So is the thought of grassroots and top down at the same time to reach the middle? So is there a bell curve thought behind that? Or
I guess so. You could say that, right? Like a lot of people don't see the importance of reaching out to the governments. They think we'll just do grassroots.
Yeah.
But I think you actually need both because you have a strong endorsement if the government makes Bitcoin legal tender, like in El Salvador.
Yeah.
But you also have the benefit of making Bitcoin into money because of policy, because they can remove capital gains on Bitcoin, which enables it to be money. So you could have a community transacting, but let's take Indonesia as an example. You can't spend Bitcoin there. Otherwise, you can go to jail. Right. So you can say, we're going to start up a community, we're going to do Bitcoin payments.
But it's dangerous.
In theory, the government can crack down on you and throw you all in jail. So in the ideal world, we can work with them and educate them about what Bitcoin is and say, you can't really stop it. Bitcoin is information and Bitcoin is economic freedom. And it's better to embrace it and open up because it's going to happen anyways.
Yeah.
So do you want to throw some tourists into jail? Like if Nut is in Indonesia and he bought a coffee, do you really want to put Nut in jail?
No,
I don't think so.
I wouldn't do that. so that's sort of the same attitude we have with the Free Madeira organization, that like this thing is happening and we're all preparing for hyper Bitcoinization. And the way I see it, we have two ways of doing that, and it's the violent way and the diplomatic way.
Yeah.
And the diplomatic way is unfortunately, collaborating with governments. But it is what it is.
You missed an opportunity on stage. You should have screamed, "Free Madeira."
I should have.
Fist in
Next
the air.
time there'll be a shout out. I always forget the shout outs. Like I even forget the Freedom Footprint shows sometimes when I'm on stage. But I remembered it yesterday. So yeah, that was good.
Yeah. But yeah, like a lot of people don't want to work with governments, and it's understandable, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a mistrust of governments. But I think at the end of the day, governments are still made up of people, and you can still have good people in the government, and they may not know about Bitcoin. So I was talking recently with some people about the work that Jan3 does, and it's really bringing that game theory to the forefront.
Yeah.
So the game theory around Bitcoin exists, how it will inevitably win. But I think if the governments don't know about Bitcoin, then they can't participate in the game. They need to know about the game.
Yeah.
So that's really what we're doing. We're saying there's mining is an opportunity, converting your energy into money.
Yeah.
There is Bitcoin as a treasury asset. You can buy Bitcoin, accumulate, eradicate debt.
Yeah.
There's accepting Bitcoin as money, opening up economic freedom for everyone.
Yeah.
And banking the unbanked. But you kind of have to tell them there is this game.
Yeah.
Or else they don't play the game.
No, exactly. And how do you view that, like governments owning Bitcoin? Like, how does it work? Like custodial versus like some multi-sig thing that the parliament has a multi-sig wallet. Like, how do you see that playing out in the future?
Well, I think custodial does have a place. It's easy for people to use, maybe for governments as well, because I don't think there has been a very robust multi-sig design yet. We've worked on some things for El Salvador, but the question is, what happens when the government changes over? Who has the keys?
Yeah, exactly.
Can the president run away with the coins?
Yeah. Some guy has the keys. That's the dilemma there.
These are very complex issues that we don't have a template to go off of.
No.
We have some designs that we made, but I think it is a multi-sig, and there are elements of the multi-sig that have to be turned over. New government, new multi-sig setup, move funds from one wallet to another wallet. But custodial solutions might be the easier way to get governments in, because they can just sign up for some service, and maybe the best way is using 3 different custodians.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
not one of them will screw you. But I mean, there's also an interesting thing here too, which is if you use the US custodian and they freeze your Bitcoin,
Yeah.
that is a really good lesson for everyone else.
Yeah.
So there's
it's
no
an
really
expensive lesson, but
there's
the
no
lesson
real
also-
wrong way to go about
No.
it, right?
No, yeah. I've been thinking about that, like the difference between ownership and possession,
Yeah.
because Bitcoin sort of flips that whole thing on its head, because it's an even deeper layer than just possession, because it's all just knowing a secret. So you could, from a certain perspective, you could say that all Bitcoins exist in people's heads and nowhere else, because it's all about keeping a secret.
That's
so
true.
like, and that's so. That leads you to all sorts of other weird thoughts about you sort of have to rethink the whole concept of property and and intellectual property. Like intellectual property is a government construct, really. It doesn't exist in the real world.
Well, physical property also is a construct.
Yeah, it is a construct, but at least it's a construct that's rooted in the notion that you own your own faculties and homesteading and all of that.
But you don't. If you're paying property tax, you're renting from the government.
Yeah, that's true.
And there is also they can seize land, right?
Yeah. So you don't
Appropriation.
Yeah, so you can legally own your property, but and you can possess it, but all of that doesn't matter if people with guns come to your home and just take it from you.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know, but expropriation is a very common thing, especially if you have large tracts of land and they want to build a highway or a railway somewhere.
Yeah.
They'll just say, "We're buying that from you.
Yeah,
This is the price."
Yeah, and they print money to do it.
Well, that too. But you don't really own it. Bitcoin is the only thing that you really own.
Yeah,
because it's in your head. But this whole paradigm, it's a seismic shift in how the world works.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've yet realized how to fully adapt to it, especially governments, right? If you think about it, Bitcoin needs to trigger a huge waterfall of changes in a number of areas, regulatorily and in just general laws, property laws.
Yeah.
There have to be more protections added for people's property, right? Because I think there was an example of this. They pulled someone over and they pulled out his seed phrase from his wallet, and it was recorded on a camera, right?
And who were they, and where was this?
It was the police. It was like a regular pullover or something like that, and the guy just happened to have a seed phrase, and it was on the news that they showed the seed phrase on the camera.
Oh,
so there's a lot of new protections that need to be added. Like right now, when you cross a border, technically they can search your electronic devices, right? There have to be new protections added where they can't do that, because that border officer can steal your possessions.
Yeah.
And no one would be the wiser. There's no way to have a control in place to prevent him from memorizing your 12 words.
No, which is why you should do that and cross the border without the device.
Yeah, exactly. But still, like, you might be forced to unlock your computer, and you might not have a password on your wallet.
Yeah.
There's a number of little edge cases that have to be addressed, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's further down the Jan 3 mission. First, we want to get them to participate in Bitcoin game theory. And later on, we hope that relationship will allow us to work with optimization of these laws to better protect property.
So in your view, in the long run, does Bitcoin obsolete borders altogether?
I think so.
Yeah.
The whole concept of borders has to change. And I've been thinking about this a lot. The prosperity of a nation is really the people.
Yeah.
You want good people to come.
Yeah.
And you can't really keep people. Well, you can, but it's not ethical.
Getting exponentially harder.
It's getting harder, but it's also very unethical to keep people, right?
Yeah.
So if people can move across borders and they can move their assets with them across borders, you have to far better align your incentives with those of the people.
Yeah.
So you actually need to have a nice country that is safe, that is not crazy, that has energy.
Yeah.
It has to be a conductive environment for business, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at a lot of things that El Salvador is doing, it is exactly all these things. They're trying to build a place that people want to go to. Whereas other countries, like in Western countries, it's almost the opposite.
Yeah.
They want to limit immigration, especially even legal immigration. They don't want doctors coming.
No.
Right? They don't want people bringing their money in or out. They're trying to limit the flow of economic activity in and out.
Yeah.
Right? But this is just a slow way to go into a dead end, right?
Yeah.
It's like all that economic prosperity has to come from either people moving their capital in or moving their brains in and building businesses and other things in the country. So if you don't have that, then you're just going to decline.
Yeah. So West is the new East.
We'll see.
In Europe, at least.
When things get bad enough, I think a lot of the governments will wake up and understand we can't keep doing this, right?
No.
And I think maybe we're getting close to that point because people are realizing the economic conditions are deteriorating rapidly. Inflation is rampant. You have double-digit inflation in the UK last year.
Yeah.
That's
And that's the
historically
official number.
Yeah, that's the official number. And that's traditionally reserved for, Venezuela, Argentina.
Yeah.
But no, it's hitting Western nations now.
Yeah.
Norway too.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Like Norway used to be so that the Norwegian krona used to be very strong.
Yeah.
But it's not anymore.
It's not. But there's an opportunity, right? And this is
chaos is a ladder.
It is. But all these other countries, jurisdictions, places like Madeira, I think they have an opportunity now to open up and implement better policy that will bring that money and bring that talent.
Yeah. And remote small places suddenly all of a sudden have an advantage against these bigger entities and bigger players.
Yeah.
And so it's really turning things on its head and because Bitcoin is everywhere.
Yeah.
And I saw a picture of someone trying to flee the Ukraine, either a Russian guy or a Ukrainian guy. I don't remember. But he had in his hand luggage, he had like a gold bar, a stack of rubles, a stack of dollars, and a stack of euros.
I saw that too.
And it all got confiscated. And the beauty of that thing is that the Twitter thread, like it's posted on Twitter, and all the replies are just, "Hey, look at this idiot that can't remember 12 words." And people are going to learn from that. Like you don't have to make the mistake yourself. You don't have to learn it the hard way. All the information is out there. You just need to know where to look, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. But that creates the new problem, which is now, if everyone did remember 12 words and they did want to stop you from moving money, they can just detain you for no reason. And basically they can say, you have 100 Bitcoin, give it up.
Yeah.
And then how do you prove you don't have it? Right.
Yeah. But still, if you have more than 100 Bitcoin, you can give them 100 and just get away.
Right. But the point is, I don't think that should be the case. And I think we need stronger protections against that. And the best protection that I think is we get the governments to have Bitcoin, because then they're orange pilled. Yeah. And then you align their thinking with that of the Bitcoin ethos, right?
Yeah.
It's like the Trojan horse. You give them the thing. Maybe they're mining it. Maybe they have it. But they'll start to come around, understand hard money, understand the value of property, and understand basic Bitcoin ethos. I think that's how you change the system. Otherwise, if you have that gap of the haves and the have-nots, the have-nots are always going to try to take from the haves, right? It's basic communism 101.
Yeah, and especially if you have every individual that is orange-pilled in a parliament or government, their incentives are aligned with ours. Yeah. And not only that, you can expand on that even further and go to these my new age, your Bitcoin ideas. Like we're all part of the same entity now, but since all it is in our heads, and created the electromagnetic cardiovascular system between people or something.
That's very deep. It's too deep for 10 a.m. in the morning.
All right. So let's keep it more shallow then. You employed our good friend Prince Filip like a year back now, or
it's been about a year.
Yeah. And what was the motive behind that decision? Like,
well, he wanted to focus 100% on Bitcoin, so he left his fiat finance job and went all in Bitcoin. And he wants to see if he can help us in our mission to orange pill nation states. And he has a very unique network of royal families around the world. Yeah. Right? And like if you heard him talking yesterday, he's all about low time preference. And
I know.
you know, he's on your show too, right?
Yeah.
So it's
we
all
spent some
about
time together.
tapping into that network and then opening new doors, because there are monarchies either active or inactive in all these countries.
Yeah.
And we can try to use those to get new introductions to governments and presidents and prime ministers.
Yeah. We wish him luck in his orange pilling of various royal characters around the globe. Yeah. So monarchy versus republic then, like what are the pros and cons of that? Did you think anything about that? Did you ever have any thoughts about that? Or like,
well, Filip obviously is biased towards monarchy.
yeah, I find it funny. Like his bias is pretty, but there's something ironic to it.
Yeah, I thought a lot about the governance structures because I'm actually making a sci-fi game. It's called Infinite Fleet, and it's set in the future. And one of the things I wanted to address with it in terms of the lore is have a more comprehensive universe. Because if you look at things like Star Trek or Star Wars, I think Star Wars is doing a lot more fleshing out of their worlds, right?
Yeah.
Politically, economically. But if you look at something like Star Trek, the political, economic part is completely missing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Credits. They call credits.
No, they just don't have money. It's a utopian society.
All right.
But then they do have money. They have Latinum. So
Latinum?
somehow there's money, but there is not money.
Oh.
But if you really think about that world deeply, then you kind of wonder, like, how did someone build a house somewhere?
Yeah, how did they build the Enterprise?
Well, they could use automation, but still, like, if you settle on a planet somewhere, who would build your house?
Yeah.
Would they do it because they like to, or did you pay them somehow? But there's no money apparently, so I don't know. But I've been thinking a lot about governance structures too, and what the future governance structure would be. I don't think it is monarchy or republic or anything. Democracy is not ideal. It's a constant 51% attack, right?
Yeah.
And, Filip might not like it when I say this, but I tell him this too, but you can have a good monarch, but you can also have a bad monarch.
Yeah.
And the only way to get out of that system is to kill the monarch.
Yeah. You can have Joffrey from Game of Thrones.
So, yeah. You love Game of Thrones.
Well, the first 4 seasons.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the eventual evolution of governance has to be actually similar to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's a consensus model.
Yeah.
Where you need a super majority to change any rule set. And I think the rule set has to be minimized massively. So we have this concept of the lawmaker right now, but there is no law remover. So all you do is you're complicating the rule set. It's like Ethereum. You make it more and more complex over time, where no one understands how anything works anymore.
Yeah.
And you bolt on new things, and the incentives for bolting on new things could be economic stimulus or random things or things that have no relation with the base core rule set, right?
Yeah.
So you just end up with this monstrosity that you don't really know if you broke the law or not. And that gives the state actually more power because they can use that to do whatever they want, basically.
Sounds like the Soviet Union, where everyone was afraid and everyone was afraid of being thrown in jail and just
or Canada, right?
Or Canada.
Because you have a law that was implemented in a well-meaning manner, the Emergencies Act, which was meant for an emergency.
Yeah.
But the question is, what is an emergency?
Yeah, that's what happened to the Weimar Republic. The Article 38 or whatever it's called. That's what Hitler used to ban all the other parties later down the line.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
I get more power with an emergency. There's definitely an emergency going on.
It's funny how that works. Huh? Suddenly it's an emergency. So well-meaning laws can be used in a very evil way, as we've seen in history.
Yes.
And there is no real way around that. No. It's just the realization that can happen, and we need to have a better way.
Is it inevitable?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think this is why we have to go to some consensus rule system. Yeah. So in Infinite Fleet, in the universe, there is a foundational law, and that's basically compared to the 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
It's very, very simple. Don't kill, don't steal, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Then you have different citadels. Citadels are the states. They might have additional flavors of it, but it's still very minimalistic, right? So you have foundation, which everyone follows, and then you have little flavors of extra laws. But you cannot add something new unless there's a supermajority agreeing, which is 95%.
Yeah.
And the thing that makes it work is it's the future, it's in space, so you can leave if you don't agree, and you can create your new colony, right?
All right.
You have automation, you have nanotech and everything, so it's not difficult to go somewhere else.
So your background is in gaming, right? You started at Activision, I think.
Ubisoft. Well,
Ubisoft,
Relic, which
Relic,
was
okay.
THQ back then.
All right.
Yeah.
And then you left and started your own thing, like with a couple of people.
Then I went to Ubisoft and spun up a new studio for them in Western China. Then I started my own thing.
All right. So what's your most famous gaming title that you worked on?
I don't know. Maybe Dawn of War or Company of Heroes.
All right.
They're both very highly rated real-time strategy games.
Nice, cool. I play StarCraft 2 every once in a while with HODLing.
Did you play StarCraft 1?
I did.
Really?
I did. Yeah. I loved it.
Competitively?
Not competitive. StarCraft 1, I only played the single player mode.
Okay.
But like nowadays, I mean, I suck.
I do too.
Yeah. But it's the only sport I watch. Like I really love seeing competitive StarCraft games because it's not people trying to kick a ball and fake injuries. It's aliens shooting one another, and that's more entertaining to me.
It's pure skill.
Yeah.
Like, what format is this Infinite Fleet?
It's basically it's MMO RTS. We call it MMO strategy for simplicity because people don't know what RTS is anymore.
All right.
Sadly, but if you can think about it at a high level, it's like StarCraft, but spread out over time. So you do your base building on your phone because we're busy now, right? We're not at the age where we can sit in front of the computer for 8 hours.
Yeah.
So you can do a lot of the base building offline on the companion app, management of your fleet, upgrades, and then you go to your computer. You can play the combat part in front of your screen, and you have the beautiful vista. So it's a PC game, but basically StarCraft, but spread out over time.
Is the internet a computer game? And if so, what are the objectives?
The objectives are to have fun.
Staying poor?
Yeah.
Today's show is brought to you by our sponsors. First up, Orange Pill app. Stack friends who stack sats, meet like-minded Bitcoiners near you, and help speed up hyper-Bitcoinization with Orange Pill app. Bitcoin isn't an online-only phenomenon, and Orange Pill app helps facilitate the social layer, connecting Bitcoiners in their local area. It maintains your privacy through the whole process, and since you have to pay to access the app, you know that everyone there cares about Bitcoin and is high signal. A great new feature is events. You can create events and meetups right from the Orange Pill app and help build your local community while maintaining the Bitcoin-only signal. Orange Pill app is available on iOS and Android. Download now. Next up, Wasabi Wallet, an open-source, non-custodial desktop wallet that is trustless, easy to use, and affordable. It has CoinJoin built in to facilitate your privacy. Every Bitcoin transaction leaves a clear footprint, but with Wasabi, you can make sure that others can't track your steps and threaten your sovereignty. Just send your coins to Wasabi Wallet, wait, and your coins will be private on the other end. It's open source, trustless by design, and non-custodial. You have full control over your keys. Check it out now at wasabiwallet.io.
I was interested when you were talking about kind of the consensus mechanism for future governance. Do you have an idea of how we get there, and what are even the steps that are possible now to go towards that?
It's hard to say. I think first we have to get to a Bitcoin standard, and then more people understand the value of consensus.
Yeah.
Because consensus is not valued right now. It's just about getting enough to pass a law, just getting enough votes, and then representing people. But I think with the state of the world as it is now, you have the internet, we're all interconnected, we are all pretty educated. I don't think you need to delegate your decision making to someone else. We can make our own decisions.
Yeah.
I think this is the only way to go forward. Otherwise, we're constantly in a 51% attack with one another. So we have to first see the value in that. And then I think somewhere, some place in the world, maybe Madeira, will become independent and they'll implement the system. And then people will see this is actually a good system.
Yeah.
Like people that I've talked to on my team, Pixmatic, about this idea, because we're writing the lore, like it has the layer on top of the idea. But they're saying like, well, how would you ever pass a law if you need 95% of people to agree?
And that's the point.
That's the point. So it would only be a very important law.
Yeah.
And it has to affect everyone.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then it doesn't need to be, right? You can just, let's say you want to build something for, I don't know, some charity program.
Yeah.
Then the people that want to fund it will fund it.
Yeah.
You don't need to do it through the government.
No.
And I think this is the right way to go.
I think that has been the key to success for Switzerland to some extent, since every time there's a proposed tax raise, they have to have a general election about it.
Yeah.
And people in general don't want taxes to go up. So,
Yeah. Switzerland is actually a great example. Like, even if there is a road project or infrastructure project, they'll create a tax just for that or raise the capital for that. And then that goes away. The problem is with most systems of governance, those things never go away. You have this problem where you have this bucketization. Everything just goes into one big bucket and then is respent from that bucket. But there's no accountability because it's just a big bucket of things that are supposed to be done for the good of the people,
yeah.
quote unquote.
Bucketization, I must remember that word.
You can quote me, that's my term. But bucketization is the problem with everything, right?
Yeah.
It's similar to all the lending platforms, right? They take all your money and they put it into a big bucket and they do something with it.
Yeah.
You don't know what they're doing.
No.
So I think it's okay to do lending if it's done peer-to-peer, like with HODL or something like that, right? Where you have a knowledge that your counterparty is, you may not know who they are, but they're over-collateralized. That's all you need to know. I don't care who they are as long as they're over-collateralized.
Yeah.
And
it's basically a free market competition on future things. Like that's how loans and mortgages are supposed to work.
Yeah.
And since there's a free market competition, that will drive down interest rates eventually. Mm-hmm. But right now, all of that is artificial because it's done by money printing instead of the real thing. So back to the future, or back to outer space. Would Bitcoin work on Mars, or is there a hashing horizon somewhere that, that's the thing I've been thinking of? Is it possible to replicate the experiment on Mars, or is Mars too far away from ever syncing with the network? Would Lightning work on Mars? What do you think?
So we actually did a April Fool's joke for Blockstream back a few years ago. We came up with the lava sidechain. So I think you could just have a sidechain per planet. And because the sidechain is self-contained, you can have a Lightning network on top of that sidechain for that planet. And you only really need to peg in and peg out when you want to go back to the main chain, which is probably going to be at the nexus of where the hash rate is. I don't think you can distribute the hash rate throughout the solar system because you wouldn't be able to sync, right?
Exactly.
It's the speed of light is the barrier.
Yeah.
So the only way to have distributed hash rate in a star system is with quantum entanglement, where you can have instantaneous communications.
That's not happening in a day.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. Madeira will develop it.
So, speaking of other sci-fi stuff, artificial intelligence. I had some interesting conversations about that this weekend, and I think I finally figured out why it's not intelligence.
It's not,
and it's because it doesn't have agency. That's the main problem. It can only be the slave, and it can never be the master. Yet, but why would we want that barrier to ever be crossed? Like, what would we want? And do we, since we don't even know what consciousness is and what agency is, and free will is a very weird concept in itself. Mm-hmm. Like, do you think that's ever happening, or is AI always just a tool, just a means to some actor's ends?
Well, I think it can. Well, the dangerous thing is if it has agency and it can go out into the wild.
Yeah,
right?
Skynet.
Yeah. But I don't know if that's necessarily a barrier right now. Like, the problem right now with current AI is that it is simulating conscious thought or conscious responses to whatever you're asking it, right?
Yeah, but it's always responsive. It's never coming up with novel ideas on its own.
Well, it can repackage things into novel ideas, right? It can present something still. But the problem is the AIs are not really intelligent. They're just simulating what looks like intelligence still. So if you ask it some questions, like I played around with one AI and I asked it some factual things. It knows some things. Like I asked, who's the president of El Salvador? What's he known for? Blah, blah, blah. Then I asked, who's Adam Back? And it made up a response.
Yeah.
So it knows some things, but anything it doesn't know, it just
lies, basically.
Well, it's approximating what a real answer would look like.
Yeah.
But even then, I think it's still useful. These AIs right now can be useful, but what you need to give it is memory. It has to be able to retain some data over time. And I played with some new experimental ones that are trying to incorporate memory, long-term memory into the AIs, but it doesn't seem to work because I think it's just going into that language model and it's just pulling relevant things out of it occasionally, but it's forgetting some things too.
How?
But I think that will probably be the next step that transforms it into something usable, right? Because I forget things. You probably do too, right?
Never.
But you could give it knowledge and ask it some question. And if it can accurately remember it, that would be a very useful AI.
Yeah. So are you, for this game you're developing, are you implementing AI in any way into that?
It's on the roadmap, but not a priority.
All right.
Yeah. Right now, the priority is like getting more basic game functionality out there.
Yeah. Will there be like lightning payments within the game?
Not within, but you can, well, yeah, within the game, you can buy things with Lightning and Bitcoin.
So it is in the game then?
Yeah, it's just in the game. But it's not like a Lightning game. Like,
all right.
You buy the hard currencies and you can buy spaceships with Lightning.
Yeah, yeah. So is this the future for gaming? Like what is Lightning's role and the role of sidechains in the gaming industry?
So we tokenize some stuff. We tokenize the game currency because we wanted to be bearer and transportable. And that's a token on Liquid.
All right.
And then the spaceships are NFTs. And this was actually a design that I came up with even before NFT hype because I wanted players to be able to do atomic swaps.
All right.
So you earn the game currency, one of the game currencies, INF, and you have a spaceship. And then they're both on the Liquid chain. You can just do that single chain atomic swap. So it's trustless.
All right.
So it's solving a problem for players because historically you get the World of Warcraft thing and, well, you can't buy things. They don't let you. But if people do that anyways,
yeah.
So what you do is you send me the thing first, then I'll send you a payment, right?
But now it's instant.
Well, this gets rid of the fraud, right? The ripping people off, and it's instant too. So I think that's interesting, having digital assets in the game. But we only did spaceships and the game currency because there's still friction there, right? Because you need to pay the network fee.
Yeah.
Liquid is still a few cents per transaction.
Okay.
But what's interesting now is you have RGB and then maybe things like what was it? Pair credit from Tether from Paolo, and that has no chain. So we could tokenize every single digital asset and just let people trade those with atomic swaps.
So why aren't Liquid sidechains shitcoins? Like what separates them from shitcoins?
It depends on what your definition of shitcoin is. If it's a digital thing other than Bitcoin, then yeah, you can say it's shitcoin. But for me, the definition of shitcoin is something that's scamming somebody, right?
All right.
For Liquid, they're tokens, they're digital assets or whatnot, but no one is saying it's decentralized, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty upfront. It's a game currency.
Yeah.
It's not the future of money.
So is NFT the right word then for these spaceships? Like,
well, the thing is, the term NFT has been corrupted because it's associated with scams now. But
it's so associated with most NFTs aren't non-fungible and they aren't even tokens. Like,
yeah. But this is actually a token. It's a one-off token in Liquid. Right. So you have like Tether, for example, is issued in Liquid. That's fungible, right? This is just a single issue token. There's only one of that token. So it is literally a non-fungible token.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's an in-game currency. So
yeah, we don't say it's we don't say it's like a world computer,
no.
Right? This is the difference, I think.
All right.
But in Liquid, you can also have tokenized stocks. There's the Blockstream mining node, right?
Tokenized what?
Stocks, like equities, basically.
Yeah.
And I think this is or any financial instrument. I think this is a direction that Liquid is going to go into further. Mm-hmm. So there's a company in Mexico that's tokenizing promissory notes. They're called Milfiel. And they've done like Milfiel, not MILF.
That's nothing to do with MILFs.
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Just checking.
Next time. But they've done $200 million of these promissory notes, and they're just using Liquid as a mechanism to trade these financial notes. So there is this need for a financial system, the future financial system built on Bitcoin somehow, right? Yeah. And I think Liquid is a good option for that.
Well, isn't that like on a global Bitcoin standard, isn't the entire financial sector like going away somehow? Like,
No.
why would you need a smart contract that it has?
It's not a smart contract though. It's just a token representing.
All right.
Is bearer and is private.
So it will replace shares over time.
I think it'll replace a lot of that financial infrastructure, like
Right.
the stock market.
All right.
So you'll just issue your shares on a sidechain or something like that.
We talked about this point yesterday, basically, that maybe Bitcoin is half of everything, and that the other half still needs to exist. The world still needs to run, basically. Is that kind of the point you're making?
Well, I don't know if it's half. I think Bitcoin is everything, but on that everything, you still need companies. Like companies are not going to go away, right?
Yeah.
The concept of capital formation, investing in companies, getting dividends, things like that, they're not going to disappear. And you need some layer there that is going to facilitate that. It can't be a shitcoin like Ethereum, but it can be liquid because there's no token involved, right? People are building on liquid because you can do stuff like smart contracts. If you look at stuff that Volpin Ventures is building, Fuji USD, other things, they're all using smart contracts on liquid. So you can do that and not have that regulatory risk that it's a security. And there's no shitcoin involved because the native token of liquid is LBTC, which is just Bitcoin pegged into liquid.
Yeah.
So if you like, Bitcoin will become money.
Yeah.
Everything will be priced in Bitcoin, in sats or bits.
Yeah.
But then you still have
Not
companies.
bits, sats.
We'll see. Talk to Adam. But you'll still have companies. You'll still have bonds. You'll still have lots of different things. And those can all exist on a Bitcoin sidechain that settles in Bitcoin.
About the bits sats debate, like, what's your stance on that?
I like bits. Like when I started out, it was bits.
The reason I don't like it is because it already has a meaning in computer science. A bit is a bit, like a kilobit is a kilobit.
Yeah,
a
sat
byte
is a
byte.
satellite.
Yeah, so all right. But how about kilosats? And
I don't know. It's like bits. Like Adam frames it like, there's a Bitcoin and there's bits of that Bitcoin. And the numbering is good. It's like 1 million versus 100 million, right? So you have 100 million bits and then you have the cents, which is the sats. I think bits and sats can coexist.
We'll see. It's going to be fun to watch that play out.
It's
and
the
see
next
what
Civil
wins.
War.
Yeah. Bits and sats. Yeah. So what you're saying is that everything divided by 20 million is still correct.
21 million.
Yeah. Well, what did I say?
You slipped. I can't believe it.
What did I say then?
20 million.
20 million.
Like, you just factored out Satoshi's coins, right? It's okay. You're still technically correct.
Yeah. Okay then.
He's good.
Maybe. About Satoshi's coins, will they eventually move because someone, finds the private key? What do you think?
I don't think I don't think Satoshi will move them ever.
No, but will someone else move them?
No.
They're fine.
Yeah, they're fine.
So if we assume just to play around with the thought that they move, what happens to Bitcoin if they move?
It doesn't matter. It's just 1 million coins. The market will absorb it.
Yes.
Like people seem to think like it's a apocalyptic disaster thing, but it's not that many coins really.
No.
Because you get to remember, we've lost probably more than we probably lost like 3 million more coins. The supply of Bitcoin is probably 17, 16 million.
The reason I ask is we asked Sailor this as well, and this is my view. It doesn't matter at all. The market will take care of it in a shorter time than we think.
Yeah,
and it's just basically to reaffirm that stance.
Yeah, but Sailor will buy them all.
Sailor will buy them all. Yeah, probably he'll buy Satoshi's coins.
The show is also sponsored by BitcoinBook.shop, the Bitcoin-only bookstore by Consensus Network. Consensus specializes in translations of Bitcoin books and also publishes original titles in English and many other languages. Check out BitcoinBook.shop for all your Bitcoin book needs. Consensus is always looking for new contributors, whether you have a book you want to publish, you want to help translate books into your native language, or you have some other way you want to get involved. So if you want to help spread the Bitcoin message, reach out to Consensus Network by Twitter or email. Details are in the show notes.
So about coins getting lost. Like, are people underestimating the upcoming SAT squeeze? Like, what happens when this first generation of Bitcoiners die? Will most of them take their Bitcoins with them?
Hopefully they don't. Hopefully they can pass them on. But
Why though? If they're infinitely divisible,
for the sake of their descendants.
Yeah, but
It
for the
depends on
sake of
whose
the rest of the
perspective.
yeah.
For Knut or for their descendants.
Yeah, for my kids,
For
I
Knut,
hope I come up with some sort of type of inheritance plan if I haven't already.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I lost all my Bitcoins in the
Me
tragedy.
too.
Yeah. That's a pity.
Yeah.
That's why we have to do these things now to get them back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just trying to make a couple sats.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think people don't really understand how few Bitcoin there are.
No.
And it's going to be a lot less next year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if people are still thinking that, that Satoshi million coins is a big deal, wait until they learn there's like 3 million more missing.
Yeah.
They're just gone.
At least. And also the hodlers of last resort that will never sell.
Yeah.
And that's they are acting to the network. They're the equivalent of a lost coin. Like they're the same thing. So is HODLing different than saving? Is there a subtle difference between the two words?
I don't know. What is your definition of HODLing?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot, because what is HODLing? Like an inanimate object can HODL, like in theory at least. If a seed phrase is written down somewhere, is that piece of paper HODLing the Bitcoin? Or
yeah, I think if I go back to the original origin of the term HODLing, it's just that you're not going to sell when people are freaking out.
Yeah,
right. That was the post. Like I'm HODLing. I'm not going to sell, panic sell. I think savings is savings, but HODLing just shows that it's you have diamond hands and you're not going to freak out when people freak out. You might sell something to buy something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a school of thought in Bitcoin where you should sell your chairs to stack more sats.
Yeah.
But like living a nice life is also a nice thing.
Yeah. There's always a trade-off.
Yeah.
And also the more Bitcoins you have, like, since you are completely responsible. So if all of a sudden there are zeros on your screen and you don't know why, it's all your fault, because there's no you can't call support and get support. Like the responsibility is yours.
Yeah.
So there's of course there's a risk to that. You yourself is the biggest risk to your Bitcoin stack. Mm-hmm. So therefore it makes sense to diversify somewhat.
Yeah. Just be happy.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Yes. Don't worry, be happy.
You don't know when your last day is, so you can HODL and save, but
yes,
maybe going somewhere is also a good thing too, right?
Yeah. Very much aligned here, I feel. So, Luke, do you have any last questions for Samson? I think this is a good place to wrap it up, right?
Yeah, the last one, just because you'd be talking about kind of the inevitability of all this, what do you see as the biggest threat or obstacle to that? Or is the thing that might break that inevitability?
So the beautiful thing about inevitability is that it is inevitable. So it's going to happen regardless of what any of us do.
Yeah.
I think I get asked a lot, like, what is the biggest threat to Bitcoin? There is no threat to Bitcoin. There are threats to Bitcoiners, right?
Yeah.
We can be persecuted for having money.
Yeah.
Right. If you go back in history, it's very, very common, actually. And I think this is the biggest threat that we should be worried about. And this is why I think the work that we're doing at Jan 3 is important, because we're trying to educate governments and bring them into that game theory, make them aware of the game theory, and then align their incentives with Bitcoin. So we also get flack sometimes, like, why are you helping governments buy Bitcoin? It's like, we should separate money and state. But what exactly do you think we're doing? If they're going on a Bitcoin standard, they're voluntarily separating money and state.
Yeah, they are, because they're all individuals. A state is a intersubjective fiction backed by violence. So, but it's made up of individuals. It's not a real thing.
And oftentimes those individuals have no mechanism to disassemble that apparatus, right? It's just
of course
too powerful. Like, we're very good at building these monolithic machines that we can't disassemble. It's just impossible, right? You hear the deep state and all these things. Like, it's really hard to break down this system, especially when there are no tools that exist. Like, there are no law removers that audit the laws and condense them and simplify them. It's just not heard of, right? So given the complexity of all these political systems and institutions that have been built up over the last hundreds of years, Bitcoin is the only way to fix that. You have to inject it with that shot of orange and let it work itself out. Yeah, you have to let it work itself out. Because if you can fix the people inside, then you'll start to fix the rest of the machinery.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's a perfect ending. Samson, thank you very much for coming on the Freedom Footprint Show.
Thank you for having me.
See you next time.
See you in Madeira.